Disclaimer: this program contains graphic descriptions of real crimes. Viewer discretion is advised. All parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty in court. Wife plotted to kill husband for life insurance. Hidden camera caught it all. Imagine trusting the person you love most, the one who shares your bed, your meals, your dreams. Now imagine that very same person quietly planning your death. Not with rage, but with patience. Not with a weapon you could see, but with a smile, a cup of coffee, and a hidden motive worth millions. What Daniel never knew was that every laugh, every kiss, and every promise was hiding a chilling truth. And a hidden camera was about to reveal it all. Daniel Hart was 38 years old, a husband, a dog lover, a man who worked long hours but still managed to dream about a bigger future. To friends, Daniel was dependable. The guy who showed up early, paid his share, and made sure everyone got home safe. To his wife, Lila, he was something else entirely. A paycheck, a burden, and eventually an obstacle. Behind the suburban smiles, their marriage was cracking. Debt piled up. Lila's online boutique was bleeding money. Daniel wanted stability. Lila wanted freedom. And when the bills grew louder than the laughter, Lila's thoughts turned to something darker. But here's the twist. She didn't rage. She didn't scream. She planned. Carefully, coldly, every detail rehearsed, every excuse prepared. She believed she could pull off the perfect crime. What she didn't know was that her husband had already placed a silent witness in the house, a witness that never looked away. At 6:12 a.m., one quiet morning, a desperate voice rang out over a 911 line. Lila's voice. "He's not breathing. Please, he's on the floor. Please hurry." The dispatcher guided her through CPR. Lila followed instructions, but her tone was off, too calm, too steady. The paramedics arrived in minutes, finding Daniel on the kitchen floor. His coffee mug was tipped over, its contents seeping into the tile grout-like, a stain that wouldn't wash out. His pulse was faint, his breathing shallow. The symptoms didn't fit a simple heart attack. His pupils were pinpoint, his skin clammy. Something was wrong, something toxic. Lila, sitting in the corner, clutched her face like a mask she wasn't sure how to wear. Neighbors in Cedar Ridge were shocked. To them, the Harts were normal, the couple who waved from the driveway, the pair who threw small barbecues in the summer. But Mrs. Delgado across the street told officers she'd heard voices that morning, sharp, raised, and then suddenly silent. Her husband added something else. He'd seen Lila's car leave just before dawn, headlights off until the corner. Then, minutes later, she returned. Why, no one knew. Detectives took note, but at first, nothing pointed directly to murder. To the outside world, Daniel's collapse looked like a tragedy. Bad luck. A failing heart until investigators discovered the hidden camera Daniel had installed 6 weeks earlier, supposedly to keep an eye on their mischievous dog. That tiny lens, no bigger than a sugar cube, was about to rewrite the story. She thought she was untouchable. She thought the camera had missed enough to save her. But what Lila never expected was that her own lover would take the stand, and that his words would burn the final bridge she needed to survive. This is the chilling continuation of a case where love, lies, and greed turned into a courtroom battle, and one wife's perfect plan unraveled for the whole world to see. Evan Pierce, the insurance agent turned secret lover, was never supposed to be part of the spotlight. To the outside world, he was respectable, sharp suits, marathon medals, a salesman's smile. But texts revealed a different side, late, night flirty messages. Hotel receipts tucked under fake names, and a string of conversations where policy talk bled into pillow talk. At first, detectives thought he was just a fling, but soon they realized he was more. He was her consultant, her encourager, the man who whispered about policy loopholes while pretending none of it would ever go that far. When he learned about the murder charge, Evan broke. His lawyer pushed for cooperation. His statement became the prosecution's secret weapon. When Evan walked into the courtroom to testify, Lila's mask cracked for the first time. She tried to look calm, but her clenched jaw betrayed her. The prosecutor wasted no time. "Mr. Pierce, did you have an affair with Mrs. Hart?" "Yes." His voice flat, eyes down. "Did you discuss her husband's life insurance policy with her?" "Yes." "Did you advise her to wait before making a claim?" A pause. "Yes. I told her early payouts trigger red flags." "And how did she respond?" "She said she was done waiting." The words hit the jury like a hammer. Lila's perfect alibi, the innocent wife blindsided by tragedy, was shattered by the very man she thought she could trust. Lila's lawyers scrambled. They painted Evan as a liar, a man desperate to save himself. They claimed he exaggerated. They claimed the texts were out of context, but the prosecution countered with receipts, hotel check-ins under Evan's name, the doorbell footage showing their secret 5:47 a.m. exchange of a bag containing aconite, his fingerprints on the folder of insurance notes she handed him. Every time the defense tried to paint Evan as unreliable, the evidence dragged him, and Lila back into the fire, and worst of all, the camera footage, played again and again. Each frame of the mug swap burned into the jury's memory. The jury room was silent when the lights dimmed. The footage rolled, Lila sprinkling powder, stirring Daniel's mug with precision, smiling into the microwave reflection, rehearsing grief, switching mugs when Daniel reached for the wrong one. The prosecutor let it play in silence. The sound of the spoon clinking against porcelain echoed like a countdown to murder. No words were needed. The image of Daniel collapsing, the seconds ticking before she dialed 911, it was enough. Her defense team gambled again. If the camera made her look guilty, maybe her voice could save her. Lila took the stand in a dark dress, eyes red from practiced tears. She spoke of love, of stress, of a marriage strained by money, but never broken by hate. She painted herself as the dutiful wife caught in a storm of misunderstanding, but the cross-examination was brutal. "Mrs. Hart, why did you research aconite?" "For a gardening project." "Why did you update the life insurance policy just months before your husband died?" "We were planning responsibly." "Then tell us, when your husband collapsed, why did you wait 37 seconds before calling 911? Silence. A flicker of panic crossed her face, and then the question that killed her defense. When Daniel grabbed the wrong mug, why did you switch them back? Her voice cracked. "Because he likes honey." "I don't." The jury didn't buy it. After just 8 hours of deliberation, the jury returned guilty on all counts. The judge's gavel struck. Life in prison, no parole. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Reporters scrambled, and in the defendant's seat, Lila sat frozen, her carefully built mask finally shattered. Evan's cooperation earned him a deal. Instead of life, he got 10 years for conspiracy and fraud. He would walk free long before Lila ever did, but his life was over in a different way. His career in insurance destroyed, his reputation ruined, and everywhere he went, people whispered the same words. "That's the man who helped plan a murder." He would never outrun it. In prison, Lila's story spread like wildfire. She became infamous not just for the crime, but for how coldly calculated it had been. Inmates called her the honey killer. Daniel's family refused to even say her name. His sister took Moose, the loyal golden retriever who had unknowingly witnessed the crime, and the insurance company. They didn't just refuse to pay. They sued her estate for investigative costs, leaving her with nothing. The perfect plan had collapsed into ashes. Months after the sentencing, detectives uncovered Daniel's note on his older life insurance policy. "Install more cameras." It proved what many suspected. Daniel had felt something, a chill in the home, a shift in the way she looked at him. Enough suspicion to quietly arm himself with lenses. Those cameras didn't just solve his murder. They gave him the last word. This case reminds us that betrayal doesn't always come with shouting matches or slammed doors. Sometimes it comes with a smile, a kiss, and a cup of coffee. And sometimes the only witness left is a silent camera, one that records the moment love turns lethal. But here's the chilling question. If Daniel hadn't installed those cameras, how many more wives or husbands might try the same and actually get away with it? The courtroom had sealed her fate. Guilty, life without parole. But the story didn't end with a gavel strike. For Lila Hart, prison was only the beginning of a new nightmare. And for the world outside, her betrayal became a headline too sensational to ignore. This is what happened after the cameras stopped rolling, and how the woman who poisoned her husband for money discovered that true punishment isn't always a sentence, it's the life that follows it. The transport bus rattled across miles of empty highway. Inside, Lila Hart sat shackled, eyes locked on the steel grate ahead. She had once lived in a suburban home with granite countertops and Instagram-worthy lighting. Now she was headed to a cell with concrete walls and a bunk bed she'd share with a stranger. The guards whispered her nickname, the Honey Killer. Inmates had already read about her in tabloids. Her story was infamous before she ever stepped inside. For a woman who prided herself on control, this was chaos. Prison operates on its own code. Crimes aren't all seen the same. Some inmates hate child offenders. Others despise traitors. And for many women inside, Lila's betrayal struck a nerve. You killed your husband for cash. One inmate sneered on her first day, cold. She wasn't physically attacked, not yet, but the looks, the whispers, the nickname, they gnawed at her. She became a curiosity, a symbol of greed gone too far. Some admired her cunning, most despised it. Either way, she couldn't blend in prison. Every routine is stripped bare. Wake at 5:30 a.m., line up for roll call, work duty in the laundry, meals on metal trays. Lila, who once curated Instagram posts about her boutique, now scrubbed uniforms for hours. The guards noted her refusal to eat honey at meals. A cruel joke spread quickly. Anytime someone spotted honey packets in the cafeteria, they'd slide them toward her tray with a smirk. Her crime followed her everywhere. National outlets branded it the coffee cup murder. Talk shows debated her motive, greed or desperation. Documentaries reenacted the mug swap in slow motion. True crime podcasts dissected every Google search she made. Neighbors sold interviews. Former classmates posted yearbook photos of her smiling face with captions like "You never really know people." And the footage, the hidden kitchen video, went viral online. Millions watched in horror as Lila stirred poison into her husband's mug. It became one of the most haunting pieces of true crime evidence ever released to the public. While Lila faced infamy, Daniel's family struggled to process their grief. His sister, now Moose's caretaker, gave one tearful interview. She smiled in our faces while planning his death. That's not just betrayal. That's evil. The family launched a foundation in Daniel's name to support victims of domestic betrayal. Their slogan, "Trust shouldn't be a death sentence." Every time they spoke publicly, they reminded the world that Daniel was more than a victim. He was a man with dreams, cut short by greed. Meanwhile, Evan served his reduced sentence, 10 years. He would walk free one day, but freedom was an illusion. His name trended with hashtags like #lover in the lie. His face became a meme. Would you trust this man with your insurance? When he finally stepped out of prison on supervised release, he faced protests outside. Reporters hounded him with one question: do you regret it? His answer was always the same, every single day, but no one believed him. Years passed. The glamorous, sharp-tongued boutique owner disappeared. Prison weathered her down, her hair grayed, her posture bent. Letters poured in, some from admirers fascinated by her story, others from critics calling her a monster. She read everyone, searching for validation she would never find. In therapy sessions, she refused to admit guilt. "I didn't kill him," she insisted, The cameras lied, but the footage was undeniable. Isolation became her reality. She spoke less, smiled less. The control she once craved was gone forever. Detective Maya Cho never stopped thinking about Daniel's note. Install more cameras. To her, it symbolized something deeper. Daniel had sensed danger. He had armed himself not with weapons, but with truth, and in the end it was the cameras, not the courts, that gave him justice. Cho later gave a lecture to cadets. Technology didn't just record a crime, it gave a victim his voice back. Cameras don't lie, people do. The case became required study in criminal justice programs nationwide. Lila thought life without Daniel would bring her freedom. Instead, it brought her the harshest prison of all, living every day defined not by who she was, but by what she did. The camera caught the crime. The courts sealed her fate, but in the end it was her own greed that built the cage she can never escape. The trial was over, the sentence delivered, but the story wasn't finished. Behind closed doors, jurors revealed what really swayed them. Psychologists dissected Lila's mind, exposing a chilling pattern of control and manipulation, and the media, hungry for blood and betrayal, made sure her story never faded. This is part 4 of the case that shocked the nation. The jury's decision seemed swift, just 8 hours, but inside the deliberation room it wasn't simple. One juror, a retired teacher, admitted later, "We didn't want to believe she could do it, but once we saw the mug swap on camera, there was no going back." Another juror confessed the texts, with Evan sealed the deal. "That one line, 'I'm done waiting,' you can't explain that away. That was intent." Some struggled. One juror even argued for manslaughter, claiming maybe Daniel's collapse was unintended. But the footage played again. The silence before her 911 call echoed in their minds. Unanimous guilt followed, no regrets. After the trial, jurors faced the media. Some refused, others spoke cautiously. One interview captured national attention. A juror stared into the camera and said, watching her smile into the microwave reflection while stirring that mug, "I'll never forget it. That smile wasn't an accident. It was practice. That's when I knew." That single statement spread online, fueling debates. Was it narcissism? Was it rehearsed grief? Or was it the mark of a killer who believed she was smarter than everyone else? After the trial, jurors faced the media. Some refused, others spoke cautiously. One interview captured national attention. A juror stared into the camera and said, watching her smile into the microwave reflection while stirring that mug, "I'll never forget it. That smile wasn't an accident. It was practice. That's when I knew." That single statement spread online, fueling debate. Was it narcissism? Was it rehearsed grief? Or was it the mark of a killer who believed she was smarter than everyone else? Experts lined up to analyze her. A forensic psychologist on a popular news segment said, "Lila displays traits of narcissism, control, entitlement, lack of empathy. But deeper than that, she shows the profile of someone who views relationships transactionally. Love wasn't partnership. Love was leverage." Another analyst disagreed. She wasn't psychopathic. She was desperate, drowning in debt, had an affair with a man who whispered about insurance money, and she saw murder as a financial solution. The debate raged. Was she a cold-blooded mastermind? Or a desperate woman who convinced herself murder was survival? Either way, Daniel was dead. In rare prison interviews, Lila tried to reclaim the narrative. Sitting across from reporters, dressed in beige, she leaned forward and declared, "I didn't kill my husband. The cameras lied. The prosecutors twisted everything." Her words clashed with the footage millions had already seen. Viewers rolled their eyes. Comment sections lit up with one phrase, "The camera doesn't lie." Instead of sympathy, she fueled more hatred. Her refusal to admit guilt only deepened her notoriety. The case became a staple of true crime culture. Netflix courted the rights to dramatize the story. Podcasts ran multi-part breakdowns, analyzing every second of footage. TikTok creators reenacted the mug swap, some even pouring sugar into coffee cups for dramatic effect. The hashtags #honeykiller and #coffeecupmurder trended globally. Memes mocked her defense, "Because he likes honey, I don't." Lila became infamous, not as a grieving widow, but as a cultural villain. Why did people care so much? Experts said it was because the betrayal happened in the most intimate way, inside a marriage. A wife, not a stranger, coffee, not a weapon, a smile, not a threat. The hidden camera elevated the case from suspicion to certainty. Audiences were not just told, they saw. They became jurors themselves. That visual evidence cemented the case as one of the most disturbing betrayals of trust in modern memory. Lost in the storm was Daniel himself. His sister fought to keep his memory alive. He wasn't just a victim, she told a news station. He was a dreamer. He wanted to go back to school. He loved moose. He deserved a future. The foundation in his name grew, offering scholarships to students pursuing criminal justice. Ironically, many applicants cited his case as inspiration. His legacy became justice, not just for himself, but for others. One of the final twists came years later, when a juror wrote a memoir about serving on the trial. In it, she revealed a chilling detail. After the verdict was read, she saw Lila lean down to her lawyer and whisper something. The lawyer shook his head, refused to repeat it. But the jurors swore she leaped. Read the words, it should have worked. Those 4 words, cold unapologetics, sparked new waves of discussion online. It wasn't regret, it wasn't denial. It was the chilling pride of a plan that failed, not because of her mistakes, but because of Daniel's camera. The court had spoken, the jury had decided, the media had made her a villain, but in the end, one question remains. Did Lila ever truly believe she was innocent, or did she simply resent the one thing that betrayed her, not her lover, not her greed, but the camera that never blinked? And if Daniel hadn't installed those cameras, would she have walked free? She thought prison would silence her. But inside those walls, Lila Hart didn't vanish. She adapted, she lied, she manipulated. And even behind bars, she tried to control her story. This is part 5 of the coffee cup murder, where betrayal didn't end with a verdict. It evolved into a new kind of game. The first time Lila stepped into the women's correctional facility, the air changed. Guards whispered her nickname, the Honey Killer. By the time she reached her cell, every inmate knew her face. Some stared with curiosity, others with disgust, a few with quiet admiration. She wasn't just another inmate. She was infamous, and she intended to use that infamy to her advantage. Within weeks, Lila built a small circle. She offered favors, braiding hair, writing letters, helping others draft appeals. She became useful. But usefulness came at a price. Every favor came with strings. Inmates noticed how she gathered secrets, trading gossip like currency. She never stopped scheming. One inmate later told a prison reporter, "Even in here, she was planning." It wasn't murder this time, it was survival. A guard, later interviewed for a documentary, kept notes on Lila. She was polite to officers, always smiling, but it wasn't real, it was rehearsed, like the way she smiled into that microwave reflection. She wanted us to like her, to underestimate her. But behind the smile, she was always calculating. The guard recalled one chilling moment, Lila asking if prison cameras had blind spots. When pressed, she laughed it off. Just curious, she said, but to those who knew her past, curiosity was never innocent. Fellow inmates described her as two-faced. To some, she was the helpful friend who gave advice on court cases. To others, she was the manipulator who spread lies, pitting women against each other. One inmate remembered Lila's chilling words, "Everyone out there thinks I'm a monster. In here, I get to decide what I am." That statement haunted those who heard it. Lila never stopped writing, to journalists, to old friends, to strangers who sent fan mail. Her letters painted her as the victim. The camera lied. She wrote again and again. The system wanted someone to blame. But in her cell, other inmates saw the real Lila. She laughed when documentaries aired her story. She bragged about being on Netflix. She reveled in the attention, even negative. Fame, infamy, it didn't matter. What mattered was that the world was still saying her name. Inside, her nickname became both a weapon and a curse. Some inmates mocked her, sliding honey packets across the cafeteria table, whispering, "Sweet enough for you." Others wanted proximity to her fame. In a strange twist, she became a prison celebrity. Women asked her to retell the story, as if gossiping at a slumber party instead of recounting a murder. She never denied it outright. Instead, she added drama, adjusting details, feeding the legend. She was proud of it, an inmate later confessed. She wanted to be remembered, even if it was for killing him. In 2022, prison staff intercepted an unusual request. Lila had tried to arrange a phone interview with a true crime podcast without official clearance. Her pitch, a tell-all version of the story where she'd reveal what really happened, authorities shut it down immediately, citing security violations, but the attempt revealed her obsession, control of the narrative. Even behind bars, she wanted to script the story. Years inside wore her down. Her boutique on her glamour faded into gray uniforms and harsh fluorescent light. But mentally, something darker happened. Therapists noted her refusal to accept guilt. She maintained her innocence, claiming the footage was edited or misunderstood. Classic denial, they said, but others saw something scarier, delusion. She believed her own lies? One prison psychologist later explained. That's what made her dangerous. She could convince herself of anything, and try to convince others too. Outside, Daniel's dog Moose lived quietly with his sister, but Lila never once asked about him in her letters, not once. To Daniel's family, that silence was proof of who she really was. She hadn't loved Moose. She hadn't loved Daniel. She had loved only control. Over time, new inmates entered. The legend of Daniel Hart grew. She became a cautionary tale told in whispers. "She'll smile in your face and poison your coffee," they'd say. Some younger inmates even idolized her, twisted by the allure of her notoriety. But for most, she was a reminder. Betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people closest to you. Behind bars, stripped of freedom, Lila still found ways to manipulate, to control, to be remembered. But as her story spread, one chilling question lingered. If she ever walked free again, would she stop scheming? Or would the world find out that for Daniel Hart, murder was never just a moment, but a mindset? Years have passed since the verdict. Daniel Hart will never walk free. Her lover Evan has faded into disgrace, and Daniel Hart rests in silence. But this case has never left the public's mind. It haunts investigators, inspires endless debate, and raises one chilling question. What if the cameras hadn't been there? Detective Maya Cho, the woman who pulled the hidden camera from the kitchen shelf, gave a rare interview years later. When we watched that footage, I knew we weren't just solving a case. We were watching trust die in real time. That stays with you. She admitted she still checks every room she enters for cameras. Daniel's paranoia saved his life story. It also changed mine. I don't see Holmes the same way anymore. Other detectives echoed her words. Without that footage, she might have walked free. The toxicology alone wasn't enough. The motive wasn't unique. But the cameras don't lie. Law schools now teach the coffee cup murder as a landmark in digital evidence. Criminal justice classes use the footage to discuss motive, intent, and premeditation. It's shown to new detectives as a warning: don't ignore small devices. That USB-sized lens could be your star witness. For prosecutors, it's a case study in how technology can turn suspicion into certainty. The haunting part isn't just the murder, it's the possibility of what could have been. What if Daniel hadn't installed that camera? What if the footage had failed to upload? What if the mug swap had gone unseen? Experts agree, without the footage, the defense could have spun aconite poisoning into a tragic accident. Daniel's health, his stress, even his supplements, any of it could have provided doubt. Lila might have walked away a wealthy widow, free, smiling, spending $5 million in insurance money while Daniel lay in the ground. That thought chills even hardened investigators. The case never left the public's mind. Documentaries, at least 3 streaming series covered it, each replaying the haunting mug's WAP footage. Podcasts, countless episodes debated Lila's psyche. TikTok and YouTube, clips of her courtroom testimony went viral, especially her infamous line, "Because he likes honey, I don't." Memes spread. True crime fans dissected her every move. She became a cultural villain, her story told again and again as a cautionary tale about greed and betrayal for Daniel's sister. The pain never dulled. Every time her name trends, it's like he dies all over again. People forget he wasn't just a victim. He was my brother. He loved Moose. He had dreams, and she took it all away. The foundation in Daniel's name grew stronger, funding scholarships for students in criminal justice and forensic science. His name became synonymous with justice, even if his life had been stolen. Evan Pierce, the lover who betrayed Daniel with whispers of insurance loopholes, faded from the spotlight after serving his 10-year sentence. He moved states, changed his name, tried to rebuild, but reporters always found him, neighbors always whispered, job interviews always ended once his past came up. His punishment didn't end at release. His name was shackled to Lila's forever. Inside prison, Lila aged. Her once styled hair turned gray, her boutique owner poise long gone. But she never admitted guilt. In interviews, in therapy, in letters, she clung to her story. I didn't kill him. The cameras lied. Prison psychologists called it pathological denial. Others called it pride. But to Daniel's family, her silence was cruelty. She took his life and refused even to give them the closure of confession. Daniel's handwritten note, "Install more cameras," remains one of the most chilling artifacts of the case. It suggested he felt it coming. He may not have known the details, but he sensed the danger. And in the end, his foresight gave him justice. The cameras didn't just solve his murder. They made sure his voice was heard when he could no longer speak. The story of Lila Hart is not just about a wife who plotted to kill her husband for money. It's about betrayal in its purest form. It's about how love can be twisted into leverage, how desperation can turn into greed, and how the smallest details, a hidden camera, a swapped mug, can decide between freedom and life behind bars. But more than anything, it's about trust. Because when trust dies, sometimes it takes a life with it.